Greetings from the recovery room of Racism Non-Anonymous. I am Sis Abana Africa, and I am the recovering African who is still enslaved in America, and I am a representative from the Voices in the Margins. I am also true to the cause of African liberation via unification and utilizing the tool of healthy and effective communication. Towards that end, healthy and effective communication, I come to you live in person here where you are able to see and hear me at the same time. I have come to know that that promotes more effective communication as we recognize that a significant part of our communication is nonverbal. And to provide you with the opportunity to see those nonverbals and hear also tone and inflection that drives or supports the words being stated is likely to reduce misunderstandings and promote clarity of conversation. I am creating this video dialogue, if you will, in the interest of the United Nations, even International Year of the African Descendant, as I have recently come to know that it is. Who knew that the United Nations declared a year devoted to addressing actively and aggressively, I should hope, addressing the needs of the African descendant. It stands to reason, given that I am a voice from the margins of madness here in this current systems that we live in, even the current conditions that gave rise for the need of an international year to focus on the African descendant, that I would not have heard about that or had known about it. As I say, I'm a representative from the Voices in the Margins that also recognizes and respects that I'm in it and not of it. And not of it in the sense that I do have access to information. I have developed the skill and ability, if you will, to ask questions and to seek answers, to be socially aware, aware of human needs, you know, to say the least, and I have access to resources to find information. Hence, my coming into the knowledge that this was, in fact, the International Year of the African Descendant. I am then in a position to share that information with those who do not have access. I'm here, we're coming from where I'm from. And so I'm making this video for the group, or the Facebook group, IYPAD, International Year of the Protection, or what, of African Descendants. I forget what the P stands for. Anyway, there are many conversations that I have been following, and some that I have even participated in. And several times I was prompted to, you know, next video, let me talk about this with you. Let me share. I like to really share my thoughts. And so what's prompting this right now is the question by Nnamdi, N-N-A-M-D-I. I apologize, I'm not able to pronounce the name appropriately. Nnamdi, who asked the question about black buying power, or suggests that black buying power is over $836 billion, and asks the question, what could, he says, we do in Africa with that much money? And that followed, your comment flowed from the conversation that Brother Arch initiated, which asked the question regarding harmonizing the two flags representing African descendants. For Africans in America, the RBG, that flag that we recognize and as our direct connection and link to Africa, Mama Earth, Mama Africa, and the what are the initials for the ice gold, the GGR, the green, gold, and red flags. And in that conversation, Nnamdi, you suggest that you know, what purpose was there to focus on the flag when it was important to focus on the money that African Americans spend? And what was, you said something about African Americans and how what we think here as it relates to spending and transfer of that money to Africa ASAP. And then you asked the question, what could you do in Africa with that much money? Yes, Prince Justice started off with suggesting that Africans in America need to ensure that they spend more and more of that income in black businesses, and direct it away from other, what did I want to say? I said all of that and almost kind of like wiped out what my initial thoughts for you in response to what you're bringing up. It's like I just rode that wave and the feeling passed. The thought passed and the feeling passed regarding what I wanted to actually say, given that I needed to have a lengthy explanation of who I was and what I was doing here and why I was doing it. That I lost sight over my initial response as I'm reading your words and kind of looking at the, you know, the world, the African world, if you will, from your perspective. Being an African on the continent, you know, it's like, just like in Zimbabwe, it seems there is a marginalization, of pushing aside of the reality that many Zimbabweans are seeking active support from the very people who caused us harm in the first place in order to promote some growth in some other area for the Africans who are there in Zimbabwe, you know, to regain, restore, and grow in some sort of way, but doing so by inviting in the hand of the oppressor again. To just kind of put aside the fact that, okay, there is an issue on the floor here, and that is that the oppressor, the European, is being invited in. It's like the devil. The devil is being invited in again. And I kind of get that sense as I listen to you talk about the dismissing the notion or the, you know, of bringing together of those flags as like, oh, let's not focus on that, we just need to focus on this. And that is my point and why I clicked on it. What I do think I want to say is if we can consider the both and reality. Being that I am a systems thinker, if you will, and recognize the world and events through a systems framework, that takes into account both, and both of these realities are true and truly necessary at the same time. And I believe it is possible for us to address both and at the same time, simultaneously, if you will. One, focusing on one does not, by default, negate a focus on the other. As a collective of people that we are, with a tremendous amount of minds, hearts, and bodies available, I believe that we can work and function as a system which is comprised of several parts, all working together to get something moving. And so while I suppose in that regard it's very useful for you to have begun the conversation in terms of how could that fund be utilized on the continent of Africa, the monies that's spent here, the power of the wealth. I believe that, that really is looking at a bigger question as opposed to a focus on the individuals of us down here in the margins who are spending some of that money on some of the things that Prince Justice talked about, and even things that are harmful to us, if you will. I'm not sure what the exact statistics are yet. It has been noted in the past 10, 20 years and probably more, the amount of the much higher rate of money spent on substances of abuse, like nicotine, alcohol, and other drugs, beauty care and hair care products, fast food, sodas, chewing gum even. People have looked at statistically that folks of African descent in America spend increased amounts of their disposable income on such items, and it would be a good question and an appropriate one to say, how else could that be used in a way that's helpful for the collective of us, if you will. Yet, as opposed to sort of focusing on that sole aspect, I believe that there is another aspect or layer to look at first, that when it is thoroughly explored and a solution is put into place to address it, that it will promote and support change on this very much lower level, if you will. And, for me, that's kind of what I think about in response to your question. What could be done? I trust a whole heck of a lot, and the next step is, okay, my thought would be, okay, and how do we begin to make that happen? What are the necessary components and or ingredients and or shifts and changes and or stimulants, if you will, that need to happen to support it happening? To hope that makes sense, I'm going to stop so that this is much longer than, so that it's not too long, if you will, and I hope that it made some sense to you, and I'm looking forward to continued conversations, dialogues, and communication. Okay, peace.